This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba for another technical diving tips, techniques, and trips video.
In this video, we'll be discussing some gear updates. This includes the long hose retaining holster, the front mounted utility pouch, and the redundant bladder inflator retaining approach. So one of the issues that a lot of new technical divers have difficulty with is properly securing their long hose when it is not deployed in an out of gas situation. So the typical approach is to take the long hose excess and to tuck it into a diver's waist belt and secure it that way. But that doesn't work for everybody, and so a few years ago, I started investigating other ways that I might more reliably secure the long hose or the excess of the long hose. So I came up with the idea of using a piece of webbing on the waist belt. This is the waist belt here, and using the actual springiness of a curved or bent piece of long hose to secure the long hose by pushing the end, the folded over part, through a piece of webbing on the waist belt. So that kind of worked for a while, and then what I went on to do is to find out that you might not have this adjusted exactly the way you want, and you might want to adjust it on the fly. So I came up with the idea of using this type of Velcro tape, which is double-sided Velcro tape, which will stick onto itself to be able to use this instead of the webbing here. So I worked on this for a while, and so the way this works is you have several different choices of actually implementing it, but you can use a typical tri-glide and put a tri-glide onto the waist belt and then take a section of this double-sided Velcro tape and put it together and then use this to put your long hose through. So this worked quite well, and the problem with this is I wasn't sure if I really wanted another tri-glide on my belt, so I tried to investigate some other approaches, including the use of an existing tri-glide or D-ring. So this is a fixed D-ring, and what I came up with in the next step of evolution was to stick it through one side here and then simply attach it like that, and again we have our long hose retainer. So you could do that with a fixed D-ring, or you can also use it with a movable D-ring like this one and do the same thing. Just take your double-sided Velcro tape and put it through and do exactly the same thing. So I experimented with these different approaches for a while, and what I found out was if you do it like this or like this, that in some cases it can interfere if you right-hand carry or you use your right-hand D-ring for anything. Your long hose can cause some problems with the D-ring. So what has happened is I have now gone back to this original approach, and what I do is I do use a D-ring on the right-hand side, and what I do is I have the D-ring. I usually use the fixed D-ring, and then right behind it I have the extra tri-glide with the Velcro holder. So this way, if this is spaced a little bit away from each other, this does not interfere with that, and that does not interfere with this. Okay, so that's the current state of the use of the holster for retaining the long hose. So the next piece of gear that I'd like to talk about is the utility pouch. And what I do is I do use wetsuits and dry suits with pockets, but I also like to have a utility pouch right in front of me for different smaller things like defog and some tools and maybe a flashlight. Alright, so what I do is I offset my buckle on my waist belt, and I put this on the front, directly in front of me, and it's worked quite well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe sort of the evolution of what I went through with the pouches. So I started out with this X-Deep pouch, and the first thing I did was I put a line cutter on the front, and sometimes I'll put a sheath on the front, but this one has a line cutter. And this original pouch was actually made for side mounting, so I had to do some work on it in order to make it usable, and that included putting in some waist straps here for the 2-inch waist strap to go through, and I also put another holder here vertically, and I'll explain what that's for in a minute. Alright, so what I did was I had this pouch, and this X-Deep pouch, and I used this for many years, and this particular pouch has the ability to be very compact. It's zipped up right now, and what you can do is you can, with a little bit of manipulation, you can open it up, and it becomes expandable. So let's see if I can do that here. It becomes expandable. This part comes apart, and it becomes there we go. It becomes a much larger pouch, and you can hold much more things. And then this one also has a little window there in case I think they say in case you have a light in there and you leave your light on. Alright, so I used this for many years, and what I found out was I normally didn't have it really expanded. I had it kind of compact, and it was kind of tight in the compact position, getting the things that I would ordinarily carry in there. And when I had it in the expanded part, it was really quite big, and was kind of cumbersome. But I used this for several years. And then what I found out was sometimes the pouch, because it wasn't really designed for this, it was designed as a side mount pouch. What happens is sometimes it would kind of like flop away from you, and so what I did was I put a little strap here, and what that does is the crotch strap goes through there, and then that keeps the pouch from kind of like falling down like that. All right, so I used this for a number of years, and then I got the idea from watching, and I think I put this on a video. I got the idea of putting a set of wet notes on the front of it, and I got that from an episode in the TV series Seals, where they have one of the characters, and he has some kind of operations plan on the front. And so I thought, well, I could use that as a means for putting in a deco schedule and for other purposes too. So I added that on. So I used this for different configurations of this for a really long time. And what happened eventually was the zipper on one of these ones that I was using broke, and so I needed to replace the pouch, but I didn't want to go through the whole process of sewing everything back on there again, and so I started looking for another pouch, and what that led me to is this pouch here, which is by XS Scuba. And so this pouch, I didn't want to do any sewing at all, and so I think I still have the issue about the crotch strap. So what I did was I put a piece of bungee through here, and my crotch strap goes through here like that, so it keeps tight. One of the other problems that all of these pouches have, if you have it on the front, is that it's going to be on the loose non-buckle end of the waist belt. And there is a possibility that if you pick your belt up, your pouch might slide off and go into the ground. This particular one has Velcro. This is already comes like that. And so what I did was I came up with this approach here. And again, this is some more of that double-sided Velcro tape. I love that stuff. And if you put it around here like this, you can feed your waist belt through here like this, and then use this part of the tri-glide like that to keep the pouch in position. So it can actually never slide off. I've got this thing packed. I normally don't have it packed with this much stuff. It's because I'm going on a trip, and I was packing some extra stuff in there. But this pouch is kind of an in-between size between the X-Deep pouch in the zip position and the X-Deep pouch in the unzip position. So I'm going to be trying this approach out now here on the next trip and see how this works out. But I think it's an intermediate size type pouch, unless you jam it full of things like this. It's an intermediate size pouch, so I'm having high hopes with this primarily because I don't have to do any kind of extensive modifications to it to get it to work. So this is what I'm currently using, experimenting with in terms of a waist-mounted pouch. And a couple of things that I keep in here. I have a leash here. Probably will take that out. But I also have a John line that I keep in the front. The John line is a piece of yellow webbing with some bolt snaps on there, and that's very cumbersome. So this front pocket's very good for that. I also keep defog in there. I've got the other junk put in here right now just for traveling purposes. These are some single tank adapter stabilizing plates that I made. I don't know, we'll see how those work. And then I have also a set of wet notes jammed in here. I wouldn't ordinarily have that in there. And you can see that I have a small spool and a small DSMB, which I normally carry in here. And if you look down on the bottom, I also have a flashlight and some couple of tools and some extra bolt snaps and so on. So this is typically what I'm going to use, and again, I'm not going to be carrying all this stuff in there. I don't need it. This is my crotch strap. I have a quick release crotch strap, and what happens is this goes down through there like that and holds like that, and the knife holder or the line cutter goes through like that. So this is very compact, But I'm going to fight with TSA, so I've got all this stuff packed in here for now for transport until I put everything back together again. There is a video on how to actually get technical dive gear, open circuit technical dive gear, everything, including 5 regulators, a wing, a plate, and a wetsuit, and fins and mask and so on, computers and lights into carry-on luggage. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to look at that video. The third thing I wanted to talk about in this video was the different techniques that I've used to secure my redundant bladder inflator. And so, of course, the redundant bladder is a controversial item. I use one, and so if you don't want to hear about it, you can stop the video. All right, so a couple of the criticisms or problems associated with the redundant bladder inflator are the issue about whether or not to have it connected or not, because it can possibly auto-inflate, particularly if you don't do any maintenance on your inflator. And the other one is getting access to it when you need it. Over time, I've used a number of systems to address this issue. And so what I did originally was I used a piece of bungee cord that was attached to the BCD, and then this was attached to the inflator. And what I would do, it was a long piece that fed all the way up through the top of the bladder, or the outer housing of the wing. And if I ever needed it, what I thought I would do is I would take this and stretch it, because the bungee was so long that I could actually stretch it a good distance to be able to use. And so I used this for a while, and it was a little clunky, but I was successfully using it. But I thought, well, there might be something better out there than using this piece of bungee cord. So the next thing that I did was I used this device, which is a conventional recreational octo holder. And the idea behind this is that you clip this part here to your inflator, and then this part is attached to some part of your harness. And I thought this would be a really good idea, very secure. When you stick this in here, it's extremely secure. But that's the problem, is it is like way too secure, and I found out practicing using it, I could not get this apart. So what some people say is you regulate the amount of Velcro that you have attached to this, so if you don't have too much, if you pull hard enough, it will come out. But that was not a totally satisfactory solution for me. So I went on, I looked at some other ones. At one point in time, I did try a conventional silicone octa holder, and that's okay, but it does suffer from the possibility of the inflator coming out of here, kind of like this situation here. So every time you look at something, you maybe take a one step forward and half a step backwards. So what I've sort of ended up with is this type of situation where I have a piece of bungee and a conventional bolt snap, and this goes around part of the inflator, and then I hook this on. So what I discovered was kind of interesting is that if you don't have this mounted in the right place, even though this is readily removable and is positively secured, you can still have difficulty with it. So what I ended up doing was with I put a much longer hose on the redundant bladder, and with this clip on here, what I can do is I can actually clip this to the D-ring in my crotch strap. I use a Y-shaped crotch strap, and I can attach this to the D-ring for the crotch strap where it meets the plate. And so it's very easy to reach because it's long, and of course, since it's a regular conventional bolt snap, it's very easy to detach. So this is what I'm currently using, and what I'm going to do in the next video clip, I'm going to show you how that works. In this video clip, I'm going to talk about the actual use of these different pieces of gear that we've been talking about. So the first one is the holster. So here is the holster with the Tri-Glide, and it's mounted between a fixed D-ring and a weight pouch. And so it does have the ability, if you have this too tight or too loose, it does have the ability to be adjusted on the fly according to what you like to do. And because it's independent of the D-ring, it does not get whatever's on here does not interfere with this, and your long hose doesn't interfere with what's on your D-ring if you carry anything on that, if you right-hand carry, for example. So that's the first piece of gear. The second one is the pouch, was the utility pouch. And again, I have this offset, so my pouch, when I have my belt on, is actually right in the center there. And here on the back side, you can see the other piece of two-sided Velcro with the Tri-Glide. And so even though this loop here and this loop here are wide and there's nothing to prevent it from going on, the Tri-Glide over here prevents the pouch from sliding off accidentally. On the back here, you can see my line cutter, my knife holder, the bottom of the female part of the crotch strap, and again, it's you can see that it's going through that piece of bungee. So I don't have to go through the same kind of extensive modifications that I needed to do with the XT pouch because it already has the loops and the holes that I can use for this. So that's the utility pouch. The last item is the redundant bladder inflator, and so the bungee goes around the inflator right here. The only thing you need to worry about, depending upon what inflator you have, is that your bungee does not interfere with the inflation of the redundant bladder. So what I have here is the crotch strap. Here's the crotch strap, and it has it's a Y shape, and it has the two D-rings on the base. It meets up in the center here, and then this is the male part of the quick release that goes into the crotch strap part right there, like that. So it locks in place. These are very robust buckles. I used to use one of the other companies' readily made buckles, but I have changed to this buckle. I think it's much more robust and holds very well. All right, so what I have is I have the extended inflation hose on here, and I take the bolt snap and I put it right around the right hand crotch strap D-ring, and so it's very easy to reach down here. Some people that have theirs mounted higher up here, for example, it becomes very difficult for some people to be able to reach, so accessibility is very easy with this, and you can just take it off and deploy it as necessary in the event that you need that. Alright, so those are the three different gear updates in this video. I have another update, gear update. In fact, I'm going to be doing one that is entirely on crotch straps. So we'll see how that one goes.
This is Chris with Dive Zone Scuba. I hope this video was helpful, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe.